Hey friends, my name's Steve Guttenberg. I'm here at Sky-Fi in New Jersey with the man himself, Fernando. We were at your old place, pre-COVID, right? This is a whole new thing.
Pretty much. My wife at one point, after running Sky-Fi out of a basement for a year or two, said, that's enough. You need to pick up the circus and get it out somewhere else. So I picked the shop not far from home, about 2-minute drive, as opposed to the horrible commute I used to have into the city. So it was a nice alternative. And here we are, Sky-Fi Audio, 2.5 years into the making at our new shop, which is working really, really well. And COVID's been good to us. We've tons of equipment has flown through here, hundreds and hundreds of pieces of all sorts.
Really?
So
Wow.
it's been quite a journey and a lot of fun over the last couple of years.
So it's the inflow of the stuff coming in that you
Yeah.
want, and then of course then,
Yeah.
and you're selling it basically just through your website, right?
Everything goes online. I mean, there's a couple of local audiophiles that like to pick up stuff, but we ship stuff all over the world. We ship to the weirdest spots you can imagine. Not long ago, we shipped a pair of speakers to Venezuela, to a place that, barely has electricity 24 hours a day, but I can't remember what they were, but it was an obscure speaker to somewhere odd. So, yeah,
Wow.
lots of fun.
So I'm just going to take a quick pan around, give you
Yeah.
the big view of this incredible space. I mean, I've seen a lot of audio in my life, but this is like at a whole other level of just, it's a treasure trove kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have tons of equipment come through. Most dealers only get to experience a handful of brands,
Right.
but I love the used world because we have so much variety. Every day I get to see something I've never seen before. I get to touch it, I get to fix it, work with it, listen to it, and find it a new home. So
And it's got
a lot
stories,
of fun.
right? Some of this stuff is just legendary.
It is, and not just the equipment, but also the people selling the equipment. A
Yeah,
lot of times
yeah.
people call us and they, we hear a very long story about how they acquired it and how they used it and how they're ready to move on to a new home and get rid of it. So the equipment has stories, and also the sellers have stories, which we find to be interesting.
Okay. So I'm going to start over here with this is that Nautilus speaker. We're going to get to that in just a second. But this is really beautiful. I've never seen that arm before.
Yeah, this is a Thorns TD124 classic turntable that is often restored. This one, we mated it with a stone plinth
Oh, nice.
and a woody tone arm, which is a really exceptional looking tone arm and a good performer. So this is a machine made for the audiophile and also someone with an aesthetic, taste. It looks beautiful. It's likely to be allowed in somebody's living room, and that's what we do. We put together turntables in both Thorns and Garrard for beauty as well as function. So you can see all the finishes and everything was picked to go well together.
Yeah. It's just. And it sounds good too, but just the look of
And
it
it sounds good.
talk about starting a conversation.
Yeah.
So the Nautilus, wow, it's been ages since I saw one of these in the flesh. I
Yes.
mean, it's so striking.
It's a striking speaker, 1990s vintage, and believe it or not, still in production.
Really? Oh, they still make this?
Yes. I think the last time I checked, it's about a 2-year wait time, but you can order the Nautilus in this configuration in just about any color you want.
So that's a flat driver? That mid-range is flat?
That's a flat driver, and they're all made out of the same material. That was their claim, that similar materials will yield similar results. So aluminum from woofer to tweeter, all the way through, in a fiberglass enclosure and a stone plinth.
Wow, extraordinary. And then, some of these turntables, but I think before we were talking about this Lin that isn't a Lin.
So
An LP12 that has no LP12 parts in it.
yeah, this is an LP12 taking to the extreme of non-Lin, right? There's one set of parts in here, which is the springs. Everything
That's
else,
the springs that we don't see. They're under the chassis.
we don't see them. They're in here, and this floats on 3 or 4 springs, and every other part has been changed. The plinth was custom made out of light oak with little inlays, and everything else is machined aluminum and high precision
I
bearings
first
and
thought when you
motors.
took the mat off, I thought, well, that's a Lin platter. But when you see it, it's like, no, this is like a whole other thing. Wow,
That's right.
extraordinary.
People love to tweak with lens, right? So this is the ultimate tweaker's turntable, taken to the extreme.
Yeah, gorgeous. That bass is something.
Yeah.
I like that. And then this one here, this Kenwood.
Yeah, that's a pretty rare Kenwood LO7D. 1980s vintage, weighs a ton, probably around 60, 70 pounds. And it's a beautiful Japanese turntable, built like a Japanese battleship. It not only says 60 pounds of direct drive, it's highly machined tone arm and fitment for 2 tone arms, which was rare for the era.
And what, this is the 70s or 80s? Or?
Probably 80s, early 80s.
Wow, never seen it. So was this for the U.S. market or just Japan?
I don't know, but I've only seen a couple here in the U.S. over the years, and I've yet to see one with 2 tone arms. I'd love to have a second tone arm if someone has one kicking around.
Well, maybe somebody watching will speak up.
Yeah.
And this reel-to-reel, yikes!
Right.
So where did this come from?
So I looked for 3 years for a Nagra T Audio, which is this machine. And finally, I landed a pair of them from a studio out in the West Coast, and actually did a great video on how they arrived and unpacking them and going through all the bits and pieces. It's an absolutely beautiful machine. It's built like a Swiss watch, and as far as residential reel-to-reels, this is the king daddy of them all.
Nice.
It's got a beautiful meter bridge in the back and just everything about it. If I were to show you the inside, which I can actually do pretty quickly. Check this out.
Okay. Whoa!
Look at that. It looks like, if you were to look in the belly of a 747 jet, it would look a lot like this. A lot of aluminum, some wiring.
Well, it was built as a pro machine, so
yeah, it's a pro machine,
right?
and but manageable in size and everything for home. So there's a great market for these now. For the high-end
reel-to-reel is
residential.
happening.
Yeah, beautiful machine.
And this CJ, Conrad Johnson.
Yeah, it's a GAT. It was top of the line a few years ago. Tube, line stage only. Unfortunately, no phono section in it. But yeah, about a $20,000 preamp in a retail market, and you can check that on our website.
Nice. And Sonus Faber?
Yeah, some Sonus Fabers, modern speakers with carbon fiber stands, a SIM audio, somewhat modern system, not current, but just beyond current.
And this table is?
It's made, it's called an Avid.
Oh, Avid, okay.
Yeah, it's called a Volvair, the first one I've seen, but pretty nice, with a rig arm, right?
Yeah, nice. More reel-to-reel?
More reel-to-reels. We just can't keep them in stock, Steve. Reel-to-reels, the second I finish one, out it goes. I just finished that one last week, and I'm sure it'll be in someone's home in the next week or so.
Nice, beautiful.
Huge resurgence on reel-to-reel machines.
And another?
Another Nagra, Nagra 4SJ. That would have been a portable reel-to-reel machine. A Carry preamp below it, and a Sutherland battery-powered phono preamp below that, and it goes on and on.
And this turntable, my friend Mike Trey was oogling and eyeing over this table, which I forgot what it is. What is it?
It's a Dies by Nottingham Audio,
Yeah.
UK-built
Super
machine.
heavy platter.
Yeah, we were marbling on the weight of this thing. It's got to be 50 pounds or so.
And this VPI with a
Yeah, eminent
linear
technology, air-powered or air-bearing tone arm. Super great tone arm on a classic VPI that's been upgraded a bunch of times. It has a ton of things.
Beautiful.
But check this out. If you step back a little bit below it,
right,
a
yikes.
pair of VTL Wotans, which were famous for being the most powerful tube amplifier you could buy at the time. I think it was something like 1,250 watts in a specific configuration.
Wow.
And we have 4 of them.
Room heaters.
Room heaters, that's right.
Serious room heaters.
It's great if you don't have heat.
Yeah. Hey, wait, this table here?
Right, Roxanne, this was a client of ours. A good client of ours is obsessed with Delron, this sort of super high-tech material that is some sort of plastic. So he had Roxanne turntable essentially taken to the uber limit of Delron. He had a counterweight made, he had a double plinth made for it. Even this tone arm has a Delron counterweight on it. And obviously the outboard motor controller and power supply all set in Delron with all sorts of crazy upgrades. I mean, again, just like the Lind we saw before, there's very little Roxanne left in that turntable.
That copper ring, man, that just blew me away.
And imagine what it took to machine this
Lord.
in hours and
Wow. And it's
and
just a thing of
precision.
beauty.
it's a thing of beauty.
And it worked, and it actually does.
It's a great turntable. Yes.
And last but not least for this part, this is what do you say? This is a crossover
Yeah.
analyzer?
This is a crossover. This belonged to Mr. Dahlquist, and it would be used to design the crossover and a speaker. So rather than sit there and solder parts into a board, you would actually have live control back in the 70s or 60s of the parameters of a crossover. So you would dial a speaker in exactly how you liked it sound, and then you would note down what the settings were and then physically make a crossover for production. So this is a piece of laboratory equipment. I suspect he had it made for himself, or maybe even made it himself.
Wow.
But it's an absolute thing of beauty. It's
So
a pride and joy.
this is John Dahlquist, who did most famously the DQ-10.
Right,
That was his
that's correct.
ultimate achievement. Okay. This is special. This is the Jadi Eurythmy horn speaker. Now everybody knows, or many of you guys know about Jadi as an amplifier company, as an electronics company. But these speakers are amazing. I saw them first in the 90s at Jonathan Scull's apartment, the reviewer for Stereophile, and he had them there, and wow, these speakers blew my mind. It's amazing. It's like time traveling to see them back again. Really, really special. But what's this reel-to-reel?
So that is a Technics RS 1500, obviously made by Technics, but modified by our friends at J-Quarter with what we call a Macintosh tribute. Everybody that has a Macintosh system wishes they had a reel-to-reel that matches aesthetically. So Jeff made a beautiful rendition, a tribute to Macintosh by changing the graphics and the meters and all that. And it's not only a beautiful looking machine, but it's been fully restored. That's what he does with the machines. He essentially guts them and builds them back up, and also does a ton of upgrades and modifications to the roller system, the bearings, the circuitry inside. And it's a beautiful piece. We're lucky enough to have one of these here at just about every month. So
Oh, really?
yeah, they come and they go quickly. This one already has a new home, but we take pre-orders in case somebody wants one.
And the Mac turntable?
Yeah, Macintosh MT10, one of the coolest looking turntables out there, and a must if you have a Mac system, right? I mean, when you try to plug into the spot a different turntable, it just looks completely out of place.
Right. Yeah.
That I warn people when they buy their first piece of Macintosh equipment that they'll be back for the rest, and they often do. They'll buy a preamp, and then little by little they'll tick all the boxes. Then they'll get to the reel-to-reel and go, oh, nobody makes one. Well, we have that solved.
That's nice. This looks intense. These seem familiar, though. Where have I seen these Macs before?
So these were installed at the World of Macintosh in Soho in the city.
It was like a big showroom, like a whole townhouse.
Huge townhouse with a pool in the first floor, if you
The
remember.
pool was incredible.
That's right.
Yeah.
So-
A townhouse with a pool, and a big pool.
In a big pool. So these came out of there. They recently closed the townhouse, and we're lucky enough to acquire them for the new home. So
Right.
these are 2 kWs, so 2,000 watts. This is actually 3 channels of amplification. So each stack is a mono channel of 2,000 watts. So just imagine about.
They look extremely heavy.
They're pretty heavy. We're grateful that they have handles on them.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah.
You must have very strong guys working here.
Not really.
No? Are you the strongest?
No.
All right, so let's take a look at these MBLs.
Okay.
Holy moly.
So these MBLs are a long-term project for us. I've been restoring these. I'm getting close. They had some driver damage on the tweeters and mid-ranges, but they're worth the effort. These are pretty special speakers. They're stunning to look at, and I haven't heard this model, but I understand they're pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, I've heard MBLs, and they don't sound like any other speaker. I mean, the imaging is beyond extraordinary. For wealthy people who are really into imaging, hearing MBLs is really something special.
Yeah, and if you are not familiar, that is in fact a woofer. That thing that looks like a giant football is a woofer. It's missing the mid-range on the tweeter. It's
Right.
on my workbench, but that is one of the drivers in the typical MBL radial trawler configuration.
Right. Because these are over $100,000
Right.
new. Right.
That's why they're worth the effort. So I'll have these sorted out in the next month or two and find a new home for them.
Okay. So Fernando, tell me about these Macs.
Sure, those are pretty important amplifiers from Macintosh. Early Macintosh, the MC3500, these were said to have powered, or this model, not this particular set, powered Woodstock. We've got great archival photos of these amplifiers in place at Woodstock. And they're old tube, incredibly made, and they have all the controls you need in the front. So they make, they were essentially a commercial amplifier that was also reissued for the home. But yeah, I mean, these are crazy collectible, really neat amplifiers. These are in original condition. They haven't been restored.
So these are from the 60s or 70s? 70s, right?
Yeah, probably the 70s. So they were 350 watts. And I have a price sheet, believe it or not, from Macintosh back then. And these were $1,100 back in 1970.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of big, what about these? What the hell?
Yeah, quite assortment there. We've got, so at the outside, flanking the speakers, the furthest out are Dahlquist Dunlavy Model 6s. They're absolutely gigantic. We always joke around that you could bury 2 or 3 people in them if you needed to.
Really?
So
You
they
could?
double as a casket.
Or they could be a walk-in closet.
Could be a walk-in closet, a coffin, whatever you want. Absolutely. That's more of a studio speaker looking for a new home, but a beautiful sounding speaker. And then further inside in black with the line arrays, those are the Macintosh XRT 2.1Ks. Those match those giant Macintosh amplifiers we saw earlier in the video.
Oh, because they came from Macworld.
They came from the world. We're missing the center channel. That already found a new home, but these are their flagship loudspeaker and a tremendously engineered speaker.
Okay.
And then further in wood, those are Cello Stradivari Grands, I believe. Also line array from Cello, 1990s vintage.
Mark Levinson's company.
Yeah, Mark Levinson. And the thing in the middle is a Wisdom Audio. I only have one there, but obviously there's a pair of them.
Oh, okay. I was thinking center channel. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's a pair of those. And those little things beside it are
Yeah,
totems down
just
below.
for scale.
For scale. That's a totem at 30-something inches.
Right. Some people like big.
Some people like big. In this market especially. In Europe, people like big stuff.
Okay. Then talk about wall. How about this wall?
We call this our
Holy
wall of
moly.
Macintosh.
Yikes.
But before we talk about the Macintosh, pan up top to those black boxes up there. That is probably one of the largest collection of De Sakara or Sakara tuners. There are 6, 7, 8 there. And there's a couple more in the shop. I think at one point we had 11. We bought them from a collector, an avid collector.
Wow.
And it's rare to see one, but to see 11 in one place is even more rare. A bunch of them are sold already. Reference, the Model 1s, the Studios, you name it. Beautiful tuner. And then below is just Macintosh. 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Most of the stuff has already been restored by us. We've grouped them kind of by era, with the best stuff being here on the right-hand side. We've got some monoblocks sitting on the lower shelves here. Model 60s, MC240, MC2100. Yeah, just really a good assortment, almost like a museum of great Mac gear.
And more reel-to-reel, four-track.
Yeah, that's a T-Act, 4-track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing. Space is incredible. And then the thing that I noticed when I walked in is you have a car up on a rack. Why is this here?
Well, we're also car fans, right? We've noticed over the years that people that like stereo equipment often collect cars and watches, and some of them cameras as well. So believe it or not, people trade in sports cars for gear, and we love it.
Wow. So that's a trade?
This one is not, but
Okay.
we've had 4 or 5 trades already this year. We had one not long ago from a gentleman in Wisconsin that had a BMW M5 Eurospec from E34 series, and he said, my dad has always wanted a Macintosh stereo system. We've got this car that is not quite finished, and I'd love to do a trade. Sure enough, we put together an amazing Mac system from our rack, and put it on a pallet and shipped it out, and he shipped off the car, and everyone was happy.
Yikes. That's amazing. We're in the shop. There's
Yeah.
so much more here. So anyway, we're going to take a look through your shop, and this is where you work on turntables to start?
Yeah, this is a custom rig that I designed and built in order to calibrate turntables. We do quite a bit of them, and I created what I for me was a perfect environment for it with everything that I need in it. Right, I've got a great phono section here. I've got an analyzer, oscilloscope, and then I've got in this drawer every tool that you need to calibrate, at least that I use for calibrating turntables in a nice convenient spot. And even everything's been thought out. I've got a record bottom, I've got a platter so I can spin around and get to the back and stuff. So purpose-built rig. And then this is the shop. Ben sits over there. He looks like he's going through a set of Nakamichi Stasis amplifiers. I think we have 4 of them. Nelson Pass designed.
Yeah, that's
Beautiful
cool.
amplifier.
Wow.
1990s vintage from the best era of Nakamichi.
I didn't know that Nakamichi made amps that were so close to threshold, you know.
Right.
Wow. Nelson gets around.
Yeah. And then, our spare parts are here, all our spare tubes, every connector that we need. And this is all the active repairs here. We've got a bunch of things actively being worked on. Everything gets tested incredibly thoroughly in our shop before it goes out. We hate seeing stuff twice.
Good plan.
Yeah. So that was the electronic side, and over here we have the sort of mixed-use workshop. I've got machinery here to build turntable plinths, refinish speakers, cut parts and paint things. So it's not a very large shop, but it's condensed and very, very thought through. Just imagine, just to get this car out of here, we've got to drop it to the ground, and everything's on wheels. That bench there, all the amplifiers, just about everything on the shop is on wheels. So we're able to kind of roll things around pretty well. And then we have great lighting as well. So
Yeah, the lighting is very cool.
yeah.
It's very dramatic.
Yeah,
Presentation.
it's a dramatic. It's unusual for a shop, but
Yeah.
it's a sort of aesthetic that I like. I wanted to create a place that I like to work in. So this was essentially a representation of the things I like, and that's why you see cars and watches and things here, other than stereo equipment.
Awesome.
So check these out, Steve. These are Nakamichi Dragon CT turntables, fairly rare in the collector world, and an absolutely tour de force in engineering. Nakamichi believed that one of the detriments of vinyl playback was that the hole wasn't cut in the right place in most records. So they devised a fairly complicated machine that essentially has a second tone arm that measures the eccentricity of the record.
The second arm back here.
Yeah, second arm here has a tiny little stylus in it. So it comes out, it measures the center of the record, and then this platter indexes to a very precise position, and then a finger comes out and nudges it just so slightly. You can see the platter is floating in about 1/4 of an inch. So it measures the center, it makes an adjustment, and then it tells you with a LED that is the absolute center for that record, and now you are free to play back in all its vinyl glory.
That's amazing. And it's not a digital thing at all. It's a 100% analog operation. Right?
It's a lot of mechanics in there doing stuff. They rarely work. I've got a pair here that work brilliantly, and we'll be finishing going through them shortly and putting them online. I even have the service manual, which is super rare for Dragon stuff. And it's a great match. We've been selling a ton of Nakamichi. People love the cassette decks. They're making a big resurgence. So we are shipping 1 or 2 Dragons a month that are fully restored, and often it's complete Nakamichi systems. So this will complete a system. This is the rarest piece of all of them. So we'll assemble with those amplifiers, the matching tuner CD player, and create a turnkey system for somebody.
Beautiful, nice. Thanks for the tour, man. This is incredible.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Big upgrade from the last place, which was pretty good.
Right, and I think we're gonna need a bigger place still, but
Yeah?
we're pretty happy so far.
Okay. This is a Studio A.
Yeah.
Thanks, Fernando.
Okay, thanks, Steve.